Let's start with this one, and this is from the Federal Ministry of Education. It has launched an investigation into alleged illegal deductions from institutional fees paid by the Nigerian Education Loan Fund on behalf of beneficiaries of Student Loan Scheme. Education Minister Tunji Alausa described the reported infractions, in the loan disbursement process as very disturbing and extremely concerning. However, NELFUND has maintained that no funds have been mismanaged, stolen, or left unaccounted for under the scheme. The student loan scheme was introduced by President Bola Tinubu to provide indigent students with easier access to higher education. To date, NELFUND has disbursed a total of 53 billion naira to students. And now to further discuss this, we're joined by rights activist Hassan Soweto. Hassan, it's good to have you join me.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I must say, let's just start with your thoughts on this news. Are you worried? Is it concerning? Should there be investigations into these alleged illegal infractions in the disbursement of funds?
Well, I mean, the thing is to say is that I'm not surprised.
Why?
We expected it, we predicted it. When the student loan scheme was introduced in 2023, we produced this material, 10 reasons why Tinubu student loans is a scam, where we forewarned that this was going to be what the outcome would be. So in that sense, we are not surprised. But then, obviously, this is public money. This is taxpayers' money. So if there's any doubt about its usage, the proper thing is to have an independent and democratic probe. I don't trust the probe that the ICPC is doing, because it's become obvious that already politics is playing out.
So you don't think?
So as soon as ICPC spoke, then a few days after, they then retracted and said they actually made a mistake. They didn't say that 71 billion naira was unaccounted for. They only said that there was a need for further investigation. That was what they said a few days after. But the reality is that when you go to campuses, this sentiment about the fact that we don't know how the funds, what they are being used for, the fact that they are being deducted, it's quite rife on campus. I just came back from Obafemi University. I went there during the week for a symposium, and I interacted with students. So what that means is that there's a basis for an independent and democratic probe of these allegations so that we can uncover the truth behind all of this.
I must say, you're saying this, that there's still a little bit of, there should be more transparency and accountability in the process of disbursement. But NELFUND have said that they've disbursed a total of 53 billion naira. If we're looking at, if they are calling for investigations, we'll say investigations are going to go into the process. What are the steps you'd like to see to make it more transparent beside an independent probe?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to have a probe committee that is made up of the stakeholders within the system. If it's about an internal probe by the Ministry of Education or a probe by the ICPC, that cannot be trusted. The stakeholders who are directly affected will know what is going on. Because if you look at the statement from NELFUND, denying that there's any problem with the funds, as well as the statement from the National Orientation Agency, because don't forget that the news that there was something going on with the funds actually broke out from the National Orientation Agency sometimes last month, when the NOAA Director General thereabout said that they had, uncovered the fact that at the levels of the universities, in fact, they actually said 51 universities are involved in this, that there are certain sharp practices going on. One, the funds are left in the bank account for so long in order to gather interest. Then two, when these funds are paid into the university account, certain deductions, which are illegal, which are not provided for by the act setting up the scheme, are deducted by the university. Then they also said that some beneficiaries of the loan scheme are not informed by the university that the loans they applied for have been paid, which therefore means that their fees for that session has been covered, which means that they are then compelled to cover out the fees by themselves. So you are talking about a very widespread corruption going on, especially at the level of the universities. So that a proper probe would have to involve the stakeholders on the ground, majorly the representative of the staff unions and the student, in order to be able to look into the books of the universities to see where the monies are going into and what they are being spent. So I think that we need that kind of probe. That is the only way to ensure that we actually uncover the truth.
Right. But in the meantime, NELFUND claims that no funds have been mismanaged for or left unaccounted for. So if you don't, you said you don't find this response convincing. You just came back from a university campus where it seems that, they're calling for assistance, to help, alleviate the issues when it comes to school payments and the rest. So what steps would you recommend for NELFUND to sort of build trust?
Well, I wouldn't want to give any advice to NELFUND, because you give advice to a project that is fated to succeed. The student
so
loan
you believe
scheme,
NELFUND was not fated to
loan
succeed?
scheme is not a project that is fated to succeed. It's a project based on a lie. The lie that Nigerian government does not have enough resources to fund public education. When you look at the statement from NELFUND, what do you realize? They said from last year, they have voted to the student loan about 203 billion naira. And more than half of that money was gotten from TETFund, which is a scheme established since the 90s in order to provide infrastructures
development for the university.
So that means you are taking these monies from TETFund. So no new money has come to the loan. The government itself only gave about 10 billion. The other 50 billion was from the recoveries made by EFCC from corrupt politicians. So that in the real sense of the word, what the government is doing is actually using education budget that is not enough ordinarily. And you are balkanizing that, partitioning that, and using that to float a loan scheme. Meanwhile, the loan scheme is not available for all students, including all indigent students. There are nothing less than 3 million undergraduate students. According to the success story of NELFUND, they have only been able to give out the loan to about 203,000 students. On the campuses, we see many indigent students who still can't access the loan. But don't also forget, when the loan scheme started last year, it provoked a wave of fear across tertiary institutions. So that what that means therefore now is that there are hundreds of thousands of undergraduate students who cannot access the loan, who are being forced to pay higher fees, and who are therefore dropping out. That is the legacy of the student loan in Nigeria. And that is why it is unworkable. And we are saying that it must be repealed. That act must be repealed. The student loan should be, turned into a grant payable to students. And government should take up the responsibility of funding public education.
So turn into a grant payable to the students, and government should take over it. The guidelines or the requirements to access these loans, at the time when it was being reeled out, we all did, flag it and say not every student will have this requirement. And one of them was to have a level 10, level 12 civil servants who would stand as guarantor for you to sign off. So it makes me wonder if all of this 12,000 or thereabout that have accessed this loan up to 53 billion have level 12 or level 15, civil servants in their telephone numbers to call and stand as guarantor. But away from that, you also, there's a statement you made. You said that the Nigerian government cannot finance or do not have the resources to fund tertiary education in Nigeria to the standard of world-class standard. So what exactly is the issue? You also said that TEFUND have sort of recycled to now become what we see as NELFUND. Truly and in and of itself, it's borrowed money from, from different coffers. Yeah. So how then can this government support, the students? How can we support students, in Nigeria and improve our tertiary institution?
It's very simple. Nigeria has enough resources, actually, to fund public education rather. What is happening is that government is operating on the basis of a pro-market ideology and philosophy that says that education cannot be for everyone, and it can only be provided on the basis of affordability, on the basis of your ability to afford it. If you cannot afford it, we provide a loan for you. That free market ideology has been imposed on us by the IMF and World Bank, the global capitalist order. We need to renounce that and go back to looking at our resources. And that is why, again, I keep saying that the solution to this problem, we had put it forward since 2 years ago. In fact, in this publication, we identified alternative funding sources in order to be able to provide for tertiary education. And we realized that government could actually gather 1.7 trillion naira within 1 year if they took certain measures that we proposed here, which will mean to cut the profligacy and the corruption in the system. Because obviously there's a whole lot of money that is not being used for productive purposes. If you do this, you will get adequate resources to ensure that fees can be cancelled, education is provided, and the facilities are equally provided for students. And that will require, obviously, a government that believes in it. Right now, those we have in power, the APC government, is a government of capitalist looters. They are not interested in this, and that's why we're in this mess. And that is why there's a need for a revolution to turn things around.
Well, Hassan, I must say thank you. Hassan Soweto here, human rights, or rather, just so I can be clear on that. Yes, he's a rights activist, and he joined me today just to talk a bit about this NELFUND, as the Ministry of Education have said that they're going to launch an investigation into alleged illegal deductions from the institutional fees paid by the Nigerian Education Loan Fund on behalf of beneficiaries.